Since the beginning, Gene Roddenberry sought to make the storytelling of Star Trek focus on moral and social commentary. He did this primarily by showing that conflict in the future was defeated by the use of strong intellectual reasoning and critical thinking, rather than by using one's fists or phasers. Though that sometimes went out the window when Kirk's shirt got torn. Star Trek has been replete with strong leader types and protagonists, but a strong protagonist needs a really, really good villain. Some of those have others didn't really understand the assignment and tried to be bad guys. They tried. Then there's the Blender made one from a movie that doesn't exist on our headcanon. You'll understand why when we get there. So join us as we kick off our 9th season of Treknicity with a list of memorable Star Trek villains. This is Treknicity.
Welcome to Treknicity, a Star Trek podcast where we do the deep dive on all things Star Trek. I'm your host, Lars DeSenza. With me are my co-hosts, Mike Raper and Patrick Murray. Hey, guys.
What's up?
Hey, we're back. Holy crap.
Back for another season.
That's right.
So the 5
We
of
really
you
hate
who actually
ourselves.
follow us, you can continue to follow us.
That's funny
Yeah.
how we dropped one from last season.
No!
That person died, so it's not our fault.
Fair enough.
Wait a minute. Hang on a second. That's
They don't have to. They can die. They just don't have to unsubscribe. Okay, that.
We're not selfish for views at all.
Oh no, not a bit.
No, we are not. Oh man. In this episode, we're going to break down the villains of the franchise that we felt are worth mentioning. We'll break down the list of bad guys and gals from across the franchise and give them our patented good, bad, and ugly treatment.
Yeah, that's good. Probably a good idea. So, we want to just jump into it rather than risk the disaster of having to cut some more.
Yeah, because
there will be a blooper reel at the end of this one, folks. Just so you know.
Yeah, we're gonna cut right into it. We're gonna get into
the good ones.
Yep, good ones right here.
There are certainly plenty of really well good bad guys within the franchise for sure. We could have had a list twice this big, but this is what we came up with.
I would say this is not in any particular order. This was just the list that we came up with, and I don't think there has to be a ranking in this particular case. Maybe we can come back later if people want, and we'll do a top 10, or maybe a top 5 or something.
Or tier list, one of those.
Or a tier list, yeah. But anyways, let's start off with the one on the top of the list, which is the first one there, Gul Dukat.
Before we get too much, I notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of these characters are primarily DS9 bad guys, or 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost all DS9. So let's get to.
I think one
the
of the
biggest bad
that happened is, we've talked about this. DS9 tended to be more of a character driven than a plot driven show. So a lot of them got a lot of screen time and time to be developed. I mean, you look at, Dukat, he's in the very first episode, Kai Wynn, Wei Yun, they're in a lot of episodes. So, yeah.
Yeah, very true.
Nobody's a bigger bad guy than Dukat.
To me, if we were ranking them, he's absolutely my number one. He's a very complex character. He's not a mustache twirling villain. He's a narcissist, but he loves his daughter. He genuinely believed that he was benevolent at some point or another when he was, running Bajor. But he's not just your run-of-the-mill, oh, I'm evil for the sake of being evil. He's a really complicated character, and at some point he's even good, or he is on more of their side within the show. So
he evolves. Yeah, He evolves, he changes. At some
Mhm,
point, he thinks he's a prophet. Then he gets his Bajoran on and starts doing it with Kai Wynn.
mhm,
What the hell? And then, of course, by the end, he's hanging out in fire caves and getting Pa wraithed up, and the prophet
mhm.
has to take him down, and that's an ending.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah,
little
it's
little fun fact about the actor Mark Anselmo. This was not the first time he played a Cardassian.
Mhm. That's
He
right.
actually played a Cardassian in Star Trek: The Next Generation. I don't
Yeah.
remember
the
the
first
name of the
Cardassian,
yeah, I don't remember
Yeah.
the name of the gull that he played. Um,
but the look of the
I
Cardassians
think
is based
yeah,
on his neck.
hmm,
That's how
yeah,
we got the Cardassian look. Is Mark?
yeah, yeah, he was, I think it was Gul Macet was the name of his character, but they looked really different then, their, uniforms looked really different in
yeah,
TNG. It wasn't until you got to DS9 that they kinda settled on what they wanted them to look like.
that's kind of how they did with the Ferengi and whatnot, you know.
Mhm.
But also, you know, Goma Set. Thank you. I thought that was that was the name that was coming up in my head, but I didn't want to sound any more stupid than I already do. And on top of it, he had the little mustache lines coming down here.
Mhm. And that weird headset thing that they wore.
Yep, yeah, it was kind of weird.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I would say that yeah. I don't know if I necessarily agree that he would be the worst or like the like the absolute biggest bad guy on this list. I think that gets
I
a lot
think he would
of credit
be.
for Kai Wynn. Um,
Yeah,
but they're very, I mean, given the fact of how closely they worked together in the end and how he manipulated her, maybe I do have to accept that he is the top of the
Yeah,
list because he was able to manipulate her as opposed to the other way around.
mhm,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
If
and
it,
I mean, and I wouldn't necessarily say he's the most evil bad guy. Just to me, when I think of the as a good bad guy, is he's compelling, interesting character who's multi-layered. As Patrick says, he evolves over time. He made a compelling character that I enjoyed watching on screen, even though I knew he was a total asshole.
yeah, you wanted to see him turn. You when he finally had his good guy turn, it was like yay, and then he
Hmm.
does another heel turn. It's oh, of course, and then he kind of turns back. Okay,
Hmm.
oh, you got to be kidding me.
Hmm.
I
No,
mean, from episode 1 to the final episode, he is the presence.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, and no matter what other bad guy shows up in DS9, Ducat is always going to be the worst of the best of the worst.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Which brings us to our next one, Kai Wynn.
He was second best of the worst.
Ugh, Louise Fletcher, great actor. I think I would love to have had a chance to meet her to thank her for giving me a character I hated so much that I hated her more than any other bad guy in DS9 because
Mhm.
she was technically not a true bad guy. She was just an antagonist, and while she believed everything, she was had the hallmarks of the best bad guys. She believed she was doing right for Bajor.
Mhm.
hmm.
And everything she did was sometimes she was doing right, other times she was just this completely evil bitch that you want to see destroyed in fire. And luckily she dies in the end. Yay.
Spoiler alert, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah, she
like
made an interesting bad guy because she is in a lot of ways she's just like Ducat. She's narcissistic, she's power hungry, but where Ducat is more, I'll shoot you or stab you if you don't give me what I want. She's very passive aggressive, and she plays passive aggressive better than anybody.
Yeah,
it,
cinematically smacks of Dolores Umbridge from the
Exactly. Yes. Hmm.
or Louise Fletcher's other famous role, Nurse Ratched.
Nurse Ratchet.
Oh
Yeah.
my.
Mm.
Phew.
Yeah.
Well, and the similarities between these characters, I think that's worth mentioning is the fact that they all felt moralistically right. It wasn't so much that they were trying to be bad. They were they felt that they were right, that there was
Mhm.
no middle ground. They were right and everybody else was wrong.
Yeah.
Um, and it was their duty. It was, you know, to, I guess, set them straight.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
funny that, she wants to be revered the
Mm.
way the previous Kai was, and she's never going to be. Ducat wants to be loved, and he's never going to be. And when they both find out they're not getting what they want, they go off the rails. And that's how it happens,
That's a textbook narcissist behavioral trait. Yeah. So, the writing for the characters was phenomenal, but of course the portrayal was even better. You know,
Yeah.
you could have a fantastic character on paper and to be executed badly. Not the case in either of these two that we've talked about so far.
hmm Yeah. Both really great characters, for
Hmm.
sure.
Uh, so go ahead, and we'll go ahead and on to our next one, which was the character Khan Noonien
Dum
Singh.
dum dum. No,
Re-
not
uh,
that one. Not
introduced
that one.
introduced in the original series episode, first season, Space Seed,
hmm
played by Ricardo Montalban, and then reprised in, of course, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Which is how he got on the list.
Yeah.
hmm
Because Space Seed, it was good,
Yeah.
but
It's kind of a forgettable episode, really.
until you get to Star Trek 2 and they
Mhm.
reuse a bad guy from the 60s show, and it's like, holy crap.
Yeah, he really was able to chew the scenery and really come across as uh, slightly unhinged and very threatening. That bit where he puts the little worms or the eels in their helmets.
Hmm.
He's saying later as they grow. It's like that's just creepy.
Yeah.
He was great.
I
Uh,
mean, we're talking a villain so good that he can remember characters that weren't even in the original series when he showed up.
This
like,
is
That's how
true.
good he was.
how good he was.
But
It's true.
writing aside, there's a reason that Star Trek 2 gets held up as one of the greatest of Star Trek movies. Usually it's in the top 3, if not number 1 in most times. And it's because of half of that is because of Ricardo Montalban's Khan.
I would say three
With
quarters of it is because of him. Absolutely.
You're right, let's not give that much credit to Shatner.
Well, it's and the funny thing is, you don't think about it watching it, you realize later they never share any screen time.
Yeah, it's
They're
all
never
view
on the
screens.
screen. Yeah, they're never in the same room together, and they still pull this relationship off. Yeah, he was great.
The
Yeah.
So, for me, the character's great, but the obviously his biggest downfall was, well, two things that really brought him down. One, his blinding rage and his hubris, and also his, obviously, that they pointed out, his lack of three-dimensional tactics, really kind of shot him in the foot. But I really think that his blind devotion to revenge is what brought him down. Now I was trying to figure out whether or not the character itself was a sadist, or whether he was just overcome with rage and sorrow. 'Cause obviously, he says that, 6 months after they left, SETI Alpha 6 exploded, and threw SETI Alpha 5 out of its orbit and basically decimated the planet, made it uninhabitable, and they suffered for 15 years basically,
Yeah. I
on
would
this.
say it's definitely that. I could say it's definitely that because in Space Seed, he's perfectly reasonable except for the trying to take over the ship.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think he's a sadist because he could not inspire the loyalty in people that he does if he was. I think you're exactly right. He's unhinged at this point. He's so desperate for revenge that he never even considers, you know what, this is actually my fault. I'm the one who agreed to live on this planet, you know,
Yeah.
I could just
uh,
take the ship we stole and get the hell out of
and get
here.
out of here. But
But
no,
no,
mhm,
we got to go after Kirk.
At
yeah.
middle,
And there's times when they literally have to hold him back. He's so desperate,
Yeah.
to get his revenge. Yeah.
Yeah. Says, I will honorable mention that he does appear one other time in the Strange New Worlds episode where he's a little kid, and no other time in the Star Trek franchise does he appear. Period.
Mhm.
Underscored several times.
Emphasis on Strange New World, Space Seed, Star Trek 2, and as a kid in Strange New Worlds,
Right. The episode, I believe,
where
was
his ancestor La'an finds him.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
All right. Who's
no
next?
other.
The next on the list is Lore.
Lore.
Evil Data.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Evil Data.
Another interesting little fun fact about this character, and I mean, this is completely non-canon. I'm just throwing it out there for funsies. Both characters actually had like a first and last name, and this was in the FASA role-playing game supplement, the Next Generation Officers Manual that came out, um, and it was Data's name was actually Database, and
Uh,
Lore's was Data Lore. I know it's stupid. I don't know why they felt they needed to do it, but it was an interesting little factoid. I was like, oh, well, okay. I mean, whatever.
That's embarrassing.
yeah.
Um,
I don't have a lot to say about Lore other than, yeah, he's basically evil Data, and that kind of makes it fun because, yeah, sure,
yeah.
he made Wesley squirm when Picard didn't believe Wesley. Let's not go there because I'm sure that traumatized Will Wheaton every time we talk about it. Um, sure, he took the Borg. He took the Borg that had been disconnected and turned them into a fighting force for
Mhm.
not very long. Not till Picard showed up and convinced him. Oh no, you don't want to do this. Okay.
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out for me from him is again like Dukat or Kai Wynn, he actually does have redeeming qualities. You just don't see him that often. Like when he finds out that their father is going to die, he's genuinely upset at this. He's like, "What do you mean you're dying? You know what do you mean? What are you talking about?" He's upset about it, and then
Kills
he's
him.
yeah he kills him anyway. But he's to me is much more interesting character than Data because he's got emotions. So yeah,
Yeah,
Yep.
he was a fun bad guy.
and you know, for me, Data to this day is still one of like probably in my top three favorite characters
Mhm.
across the entire franchise. I mean, by far my favorite episode of TNG is Data's Day. But that's right. I mean, they're like, you know, Lore is basically the onion that Data couldn't be. You know, I mean,
Mhm.
obviously I think what they did is because of the appeal of the Lore character was so wide um, during the series. I think that's why they really started to fold in the emotional aspects of Data's personality in Generations and First Contact. Um, you know, I mean, one, it did allow him to achieve a level of humanity that we had been wanting to see for many years, but also because they knew that they had kind of written themselves into a corner, you know, they had to do something. And because Lore was that version of Data, you know, albeit the evil one, um, that that they couldn't portray normally. So, and he was so popular. I really loved the character. So they're like, oh well, yeah, how do we incorporate the good elements of that character into Data? And then they kind of rolled in with the emotions and whatnot. Um, but you know, it's clear that he very much has the petulant child disorder. You know,
Mhm.
he's angry at the world because they didn't love him enough. They didn't love him
Mhm.
the way he wanted to be loved because I mean that is like the most basic human need. And whether you admit it or not, you know, we all want to be accepted, we all want to be loved. And when those closest to us openly reject us, even to the I mean to the point of where they effectively killed him to deal with him, you know, I mean um to stop whatever it was he was doing. Yeah, I mean it makes sense why he felt the way that. So I wouldn't say he's necessarily a bad guy as in he is looking to watch the universe burn, but
Mhm.
he is a bad guy insofar as that he knows right from wrong and chooses to be who he is.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, somebody correct my memory on this, but one of his biggest things that drives him the most, makes him the most angry, is that he has a brother that he doesn't want. It's like, oh, I wasn't good enough, so you made another one that you like that looks just like me, but you like better. That he was mad about
Who's
that.
also is not an asshole, but oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's and that is a concept that has been used in sci-fi a lot. And I kind of draw your attention to an episode of a very short run series on Hulu called Dimension 404. Very first episode. It's all about I won't kind of spoil it for our viewers, but it's basically if you have a romantic partner that you don't like, you have aspects of them you don't like, you can change it and start over. And I'll leave it right there. But it's very very much along that concept you were talking about just now.
Hmm. Cool. I have not seen that. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it's narrated by Mark Hamill. So I mean, yeah, how could you go wrong?
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, next up,
The attendant, aka
interesting character.
Mirakira.
Yeah, Mirakira, the attendant. Evil Kira from the Mirror Universe, who is not just evil, is horny evil.
Bisexual horny evil.
Yeah,
Probably
as
pansexual.
I would say,
Pretty much
pansexual horny
any
evil.
any
Yes.
hey, I think you're hot. Let's go do it. Then I'm going to have you killed because I'm tired of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Facts.
Let's just be honest. Let's give the actor let's let the actor just be crazy with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think at this point in the show, of course, Nana Visitor, she's the hot chick on the show, right? And they wanted to give her something to do that wasn't so straight laced because her character's always very stern, you know.
Kind
So
of
they give her
pissed.
this where she can just do whatever she wants to do, and she ran with it.
Here,
Yeah.
here's a ham fist. Go to town.
Yeah.
Mhm, yeah,
Hey, do
exactly.
you like that scenery? Chew on that.
Yeah.
And she is like some of the others that we've mentioned. She wants to be loved, and she's not.
By everybody
Yeah,
in
and
various
she actually,
positions.
well, she actually thinks that she's benevolent, which she's clearly not, but she thinks that she is.
It's the mirror universe. I'm just glad they didn't stick a beard on her.
Oh, that would have been funny though. I mean, come on. That's funny. I mean, you go back to the mirror universe
I
concept.
mean, she finds a girl.
How could they make Spock look evil? I know. Give him a Van Dyke.
Give him a beard, yeah.
Man.
All right. But yeah,
Yeah.
cool twist on the character that I will.
Yeah.
You got to give Visitor
Yeah.
a lot of credit for being able to play the same character in a very different way.
Yeah. The fun thing though, yeah, any of the mirror universe bad guys, which is pretty much everybody, she wins just for the sheer fun of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Nana Visitor was playing Kira full stop, but being able to take that twist and really turn it on its ear was
And
pretty,
other organs.
yeah. That too. So our next, before we go down too big of a rabbit hole, our next one on the list, of course,
Not a rabbit hole.
is a bad guy that pretty much everybody loves to hate because he's just so, I don't know,
Smarmy.
yeah.
And
Like,
we got several versions of him too. It's not like we just have one version of him.
yeah,
Mhm.
Wei-Yun was a character that, I mean, like the fact that he was such a kiss ass to the founders,
Yeah.
was I don't know, it was aggravating. Like he held them in such high regard that there was no way that the founders could ever be wrong. They were
Mhm.
literally gods in his eyes, and he would do anything to anyone for them.
Well, in fairness, he was genetically engineered to be that way.
Yeah.
That's what the Vorta were. That's what the Vorta were. So, but yeah, he Jeffrey Combs. If you if you follow Star Trek, you know who this guy is, right? He plays Wei Yun. He also played another really great bad guy on DS9, Liquidator Brunt. And he's Shran, the Andorian on Enterprise. He's great. The guy
And
is just great. But Wei Yun, I think, is
and
his best.
don't forget he was also a bad guy computer on Lower Decks, and I forgot that character's name, but then he hooked up with Peanut Hamper, and that was glorious.
Outside of Star Trek, if you really want to see a wonderful example of just how nuts he can get as a character, a little Peter Jackson film with Michael J. Fox, The Frighteners.
Yeah. I remember that.
He plays a federal agent, I think, that is effectively investigating so-called fraud by Michael J. Fox's character, and yeah, that guy is unhinged. I mean, we're talking cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, unhinged, and just crazy. But another wonderful example of how he chews scenery.
Mhm. He's really good at losing himself in the characters that he plays.
Yeah, I think the funny thing about Wei Yun is that he is a good bad guy, but also what makes him so interesting is that he's spineless.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
But he's he probably the best arc that he has is during the brief period where the Federation has abandoned DS9 and the Dominion's taken it over, and he's there. Is like there's at one point where Jake is trying to get out letters to the press, and William's not letting him out. And he says, "What about freedom of the press?" And William just looks at him and says, "Please tell me you're not that naive." And it's just his delivery. Is that
Yeah.
he was such a great bad guy.
Yeah. So yeah. So I think we need to go on here. Let's go to Core. Technically only a bad guy in the original series, even though you got him from DS9 here.
Yeah, I mean, I've got both on the screen here, as you can see. I got the original, Puerto Rican and gold lame look from the original series. Sorry, that was a direct lift from a song about how Klingons used to look like Puerto Ricans and gold lame. Now they look like heavy metal rockers from the dead. But you can see, I mean, you can see both iterations here. Yeah, I mean, he was very much a sadist in his original
He was
iteration.
Because John
And
Colicos could chew scenery too.
he can.
A lot of the bad guys are good at chewing scenery when they go at it. Because
another wonderful role from John Colicos, of course, is
Baltar
from the original Battlestar Galactica. Wonderful bad guy. But the thing is, he does that when they bring him into Deep Space Nine. I like the fact that they restore his honor. They give him a redemption arc, so to speak. And the best thing for me when I'm watching a TV show or movie or following any kind of story is when there is a bad guy that is so bad that initially you just want them to die in the worst possible way, but they have such a good redemption arc. I think that's human nature. Everybody loves a good redemption tale. And I mean, and they do such a good job. But in the beginning, I want to say, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure one of our 5 or 4 or 3 listeners now, we may have lost a couple right in the middle of the episode. Will probably correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was Errand of Mercy was the first episode he showed up on.
It's the only one he was ever in until they brought him back for DS9.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because it was Koloth was the other Klingon.
Koloth and Kang, they were the 3 named Klingons from the original show. Yeah.
Every time
we like Core the most.
Yeah, every time I hear the name Kang, I'm sorry, all I can think of is one of the aliens, the slime aliens from The Simpsons, Kang and Kodos.
Kang and Kodos, yeah. Well, I think one of the things is Klingons had not been really developed in TOS. They were generic bad guy, right? And he played it up, in that episode. He's like, for every Klingon soldier you kill, I'll kill 1,000 Organian citizens. And here's a list of 50 rules. And if you break any of them, we'll put you to death. He's just vicious.
Yeah.
uh, but then the Klingons started to get a little more developed, especially with TNG. So they had to change him a little bit. And I think it worked well what they did with him. And Star Trek's never been afraid of uh,
Ignoring
some
canon.
interesting episodes where we take on some cultural topics, and the fact that they have him experiencing senility and not able to do his job and being made fun of for it. It was a really great way to wrap his character up, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, despite that, they still give him a good,
Yeah.
a good wrap up. They give him closure, something
Mhm.
that the character really needed.
Yeah, well, he goes out swinging and proves his worth, and that was the thing, everybody was so they were so proud to serve with him. Oh, he's the Dahara master. I have no idea what that means, but that's what he is. And then they find out his memory's gone, and they're making fun of him. And he takes the ship and he goes back and he pulls off like this miracle mission, and gets, like you say, he gets his honor back. He gets his respect back.
I would laugh if we come to find out that Dahara is like the Klingon version of Tybo.
I have no idea what it means. Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, great character. Initially, a wonderful bad guy to, like you just love to hate him, but at the same time, you get to see that honorable redemption, which is what really seals the character's fate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's also what helped him secure his spot on this list.
Yeah. Our next character also got a bit of a redemption arc. Michael Eddington. He's
The terrorist
the terrorist Maquis.
or freedom fighter.
Yeah,
And that's what makes, it makes a really cool thing that we have a guy who you understand why he's doing it. You even have some sympathy for why he'd do it, but he's still the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's like doing the wrong thing for the right reason kind of situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was likable. He was a likable character. He did what he did for good reasons. He was very smart. I mean, this is one of the very few times you see Cisco be outsmarted by anybody. And there's a really great scene in where Cisco is punching a bag because he's so angry. He's like, is he a person who's lived 7 lifetimes? No. Is he a wormhole alien? No. Is he a shapeshifter? No. He's a regular man, and he beat me.
Starfleet officer, and he beat you.
Yeah, but at the end, he gets his redemption arc as well. So,
yeah. He acts with honor, even though he's fighting Cisco and Starfleet. That's what makes him really good. That he sympathizes and he shows the side of what a freedom fighter / terrorist could be. That even though he's doing the wrong things, you can absolutely say, I understand why he does it. And there's a part of me that wants him to succeed in what he's doing.
yeah, I mean, I absolutely understood the Maquis position. It's like I think he even says it. It's just these people build lives, they build homes, and then one day the Federation comes along and gives their planet away. Of course they're angry about it. I don't blame them. So yeah, he was a good character. I would like to have seen more of him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much further they could have gone with it, which is probably why they kind of gave him that out. But still, again, well portrayed. It's the it's the bad guys that you relate to that are the best ones. I mean, I know I keep giving examples of outside the Star Trek franchise, but as the series The Handmaid's Tale comes to a close, we're starting to see development in characters that for the entire series have been nothing but antagonistic bad guys. finally starting to gain another layer of humanity and see what can happen when things change. Just to, again, being able to see a set bad person find a way towards the light, um, is usually a good thing. I mean, and that was another good example. So
Mhm.
again,
Yeah.
I mean, and they've obviously, one thing that we've talked about repeatedly in this list so far is that one thing we like about the characters and what puts them on this list is that yes, they are bad, but they are human, in some cases, in quotes, human, because they have a conscience.
Mhm. Except for the next one, who has no conscience at all.
No, that's true.
Well, to be fair, Gul Madred is his job is to break Picard.
Yeah,
That's his job.
but he enjoys doing his job. That's the thing I think that makes him truly a bad guy, is that he's not just doing it because he has to. He's doing it because he wants to. Yeah.
He was given the job, and Picard's a tough nut to crack. There,
He's definitely seemed to enjoy both the physical and the mental torture that he was putting on Picard. Yeah.
and to be fair, he had the advantage of Patrick Stewart being on the other side of the equation.
But I do think he enjoyed it, and I'll tell you why. At the very end, when once the Cardassians, they've been found out, uh, they've told him to get ready to turn Picard over, and he doesn't do it. He keeps trying to make him say there's 4 lights, and he even gets in trouble when the guy comes in and says, "We told you to have him ready." He's like, "No, I'm not done yet." He wasn't doing it. At that point, it was no longer a job. It was like, I'm going to break this guy because I want to do it.
Because
That's what makes him such a cool bad guy. He wanted to do it.
because he was invested, he was going to do it. And
Mhm.
Picard finished with, "There are 4 lights."
But he did go back and tell Troy
Yeah.
that he was right at the point of saying, I was going to say it. I would have done anything at that point.
Because he could see the 5 lights at that point. But
Mhm.
there were still 4 lights, and he won.
Yeah.
So Gul Madred loses. Yay!
One interesting fact about that episode, Patrick Stewart, prior to filming, requested and was granted access to a number of videos from Amnesty International on torture. Um, and he watched a number of videos of people being tortured so he could get in the mindset of what it's like to be somebody who is going through that experience.
And it shows. It made
Yeah.
made Picard look truly beaten, and Gul Madred the bad guy he was.
Yeah.
Yay!
Well, you've got David Warner and Patrick Stewart facing off. I mean, these two guys are absolutely excellent actors. So you knew it was going to be good.
Yep. And yeah, it was.
Mhm.
So let's go ahead and move on to our next guy. This is another example of somebody doing a bad thing, but they think they're doing it for the right reason, and that is the character of Sloan,
Mhm.
Luther Sloan from Section 31, played by the great William Sadler, and um, yeah, I mean, again, another good example of a guy doing the wrong thing supposedly for the right reasons. I mean, we all know that Section 31 is very much um, the top secret, black ops arm of Starfleet. The technically we don't exist kind of
Yeah.
you know side of that.
Until Discovery comes along, and then they got black badges and everything.
Yeah, then they're like
Yeah.
part of the team, and then they make a movie about it, and never mind.
No,
Yeah,
they didn't. That didn't happen.
yeah, that movie happened. We just
No,
we just hated that. Tells us everything that went wrong with Section 31. Because here's the thing: the concept, we have to dig a little bit into the concept. The idea of Section 31 is that there's always that any government is going to have part of it is going to do whatever it takes to win. They're going to not really exist to have deniability. It was great, and in DS9 with Sloan as the face of it, it was executed great. It was okay when they introduced it back in Enterprise, and then I'm trying to think. It made a little appearance in Picard, and Lower Decks had some fun with it. But by the time they got to, but with Discovery, they were kind of running into the ground. It wasn't what it was supposed to be, which was we don't really exist, and we do dirty things behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much tried to make it into effectively the Star Trek version of the Dirty Dozen,
Yeah.
and that just didn't
Yeah.
to me. That didn't fly because it doesn't because there's one of my beefs with Star Trek series. Full stop. Where I didn't like them is because they expect you like it's almost like this forced expectation that we're presenting these characters, you're going to like them. I don't care what we do right or wrong. You're going to like them. You don't have
Mhm.
Here's
and
the Section 31 movie. It's not a Star Trek movie, but it has Star Trek on it. Watch it.
yeah,
And yeah,
Mhm.
Michelle
you
Yeoh's
love
awesome.
it. You
Yeah.
love it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
Or
Michelle Yeoh's awesome, but
Consume.
that's just because it's Michelle Yeoh.
but
And that's all there's this.
Bill
But
Sadler is a great actor. He does as good as he can with the role. But again, another wonderful character concept where doing wrong things for the right reason, so to speak.
Well,
At least in
it
his
was yeah, it was good because especially DS9 in particular, you had a lot going on with. They really fleshed out the Obsidian Order with the Cardassians, and really made a big deal about how bad they were, how just a horrible organization. Then you have the Tal Shiar with Romulus. It's sort of like, hey, you know what? Let's give the Federation something like that and turn this on its ear a little bit. And he's every bit as bad, as they are. But he thinks he's doing it for the right reasons. So yeah,
which
he's
all those organizations think they're doing it for the reasons to protect their empire /
mhm,
federation
exactly.
/ yeah.
Yeah.
um
That's the whole point. And
and
it's
go ahead, sorry.
perfect here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I want to say in the last character on our list is very much a wonderful example of that. Somebody
Mhm.
doing things primarily because they believe so wholeheartedly in whatever it is that they are protecting. In this case, the character is Tomalak, played by the late great Andreas Katsoulis.
Katsulas.
Katsulas.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely I had to have him on he had to be on the list just because Andreas is that good at portraying a bad guy. So he doesn't have a lot of appearances, but when he's there, he's a thorn in Picard's ass to no end.
Yeah, and it's really funny. One of the better episodes he's in is the Romulan episode that wasn't. It was I don't somebody will know the name, but it was the one where the little alien kid was
Yep.
projecting this fake environment around Riker.
Future
And
and
you thought it was a Romulan plot. That's what it is. And it turns out, oh no, it's actually not. It's just this kid.
yeah.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got us some Tomalak action. Now, Andreas, obviously, I just had to include him here because his more famous sci-fi role is in Babylon 5 as
Mhm.
citizen / ambassador Jakar. And he is insanely good there.
Mhm.
And it's a reason to go watch Babylon 5 if you're not watching something Star Trek,
Mhm.
because you get his performance. And there he starts with, and I'll just point this, he starts season 1 as a villain, but with a little bit of not so bad. And then he evolves into a good guy through the whole thing because he wasn't really a bad guy. He just played it that way. But
Yeah.
Tomalak, complete dick. Love
Well,
him.
and it's what I really liked about it is, up until that point, if you have to, go back to when TNG first came on, Romulans had no development at all. I mean, none. There are a couple of episodes in the original show. They were never in any movie up until that point.
There was that Romulan commander.
Yeah, and that's it. She had the hots for Mr. Spock, and then you had the one in Balance of
Balance.
Terror, who's
Yeah.
not a bad guy at all.
Right.
Tomalak's the one who really started to develop the Romulans as a scheming, lying, manipulative, xenophobic. He's the one who really kind of set that tone for that race of within the show. And he did such a good job with it. So
Yep.
yeah, he is
Yeah.
a great and underused, I think, bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
So now, to be fair, there are a lot of other great bad guys that we didn't get through.
Yes.
I'll just give a few. You mentioned Brunt. General Chang from Star Trek 6 was great. Krug from Star Trek 3. Gabriel Lorca from season 1 of Discovery was good because he was Mirror Lorca.
That's Jason Isaacs. You can't go wrong.
Oh yeah, he's a bastard, and he plays a great. He plays a great bastard every time.
Oh yeah, if you see him in The Patriot, the Mel
Oh
Brooks.
yeah, he's terrible.
Oh yeah, you want to see? It's so good to see him die in that.
Yeah.
Now,
or Lucius Malfoy in the Harry Potter.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yep.
Yeah.
There's Badgie from Lower Decks because why not? I mean, an animated assistant that's shaped like a comm badge that tries to kill people. And then, of course, his code goes into starships, and the starships try to kill people. No, they do kill people.
I think you got Vedic on this list from
Vedic from Picard season 3, who was made because of Section 31. Yeah, she was wonderful. And last and definitely not least, Jennifer Sharayan from Lower Decks because Jennifer, she sucks. That's all I gotta say. So let's get to the bad guy. Let's get to the bad guys.
The bad guys. And we talk about being bad. What we don't mean bad as in excessively evil. We mean bad as just like they just didn't work as bad guys. They just weren't very good.
Right.
And if you watch TNG and then watch Deep Space Nine, the change in the Ferengi is just shocking how much different they are. Yeah. The original Ferengi were just absolutely stupid.
Yeah,
they were so terrible.
There's a reason Lower Decks says you're like one of those last outpost Ferengi. They literally make fun of them by referring to the episode where the Ferengi are running around with dildo whips.
Yeah, those but the thing is, I mean, pretty much. Yeah. You can see on the screen here, for those who are watching the video version of this, the Ferengi were literally the last outpost Ferengi. One of those played by Armin Shimmerman, who of course went on a Quark. But the funny thing is that these guys were meant to be the new antagonists because since Klingons had become allies of the Federation, they needed somebody else to be the regular antagonist, and they didn't really want to do the Romulans because so much of the complications between them and the Vulcans and stuff like that. So they decided let's come up with something new. But they were so absurd that there's no way people are going to take these seriously as a bad guy.
Yeah, that's the best word for it.
Yeah. TNG redeemed them so much that it's not even funny.
I mean,
Deep Space Nine, definitely.
I mean,
they were just I think you're exactly right. They were absurd. They were ineffective. They did not appear to be threatening at all. They were just silly. Yeah, they were silly. So, yeah. Speaking of silly, number 2 on the list. The Packlids.
Packlids from TNG.
Yeah, I don't think the Packlids didn't get any real redemption until Lower Decks.
And then they still didn't get a redemption. They were just their idiocy fit perfect with Lower Decks aesthetic, and Lower Decks just had fun with them. Yeah. Hey, let's see how stupid we can make them. Except they made them a legitimate thing by literally killing another Cali class when they first show up, and almost taking out the Cerritos before Riker and the Titan and the TNG theme show up to blast the hell out of them.
Yeah, when they debuted in TNG, it was just they're the bronze medalists from the Special Olympics in space. Our ship is broken. Make it go. I'm like, what? This is stupid. There's no way that they could function this way. And then they send a help. Geordi goes to help them. What do? They start torturing Geordi.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh my God, these are terrible.
Luckily, we have the Crimson Force Field.
Yeah. But,
no, they used their Crimson Force Field and shut us down. They deactivated. Oh no!
They're powerful.
They showed up a few other times.
Should have had bigger helmets than they'd had a chance.
Maybe.
Cybok.
Let's talk about another good concept gone very bad. Cybok from Star Trek V. Kirk fights God.
or the Circle Kirk.
Yeah, that too.
Or Bill and Harv's Excellent Adventure.
Yeah, we hate that movie.
As a concept, I think it was good because it was something, because the idea that they wanted to portray is that everybody hides some secret pain, but Vulcans are like, they bury that stuff deep, 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 deep. So they needed something to bring it out to the forefront for Spock. I mean, it's easy to show the fallibilities of the human characters because we relate to that. We're all human. We're all fallible, except Patrick, because apparently he thinks he's perfect.
Yeah, pretty much.
But the thing is, for the Vulcans, in their mind, they have no shame. It doesn't exist to them because they bury and repress it. So they brought the character of Cybok, who was this character who was a Vulcan who embraces emotions, which in Vulcan culture, again, is a shameful behavior.
Current Vulcan culture, it varies depending.
Right. Well, I mean, those who, in, I guess, more contemporary Star Trek stories from the original series onward, we're not talking about the low key passive aggressive Vulcans from Enterprise, or the ones that were from the time of Surak when they were nuking each other.
Yeah.
But we're talking about, like, they needed to bring something out for Spock. They had to give him an antithesis, and this was the way to do it. They brought a character that he couldn't ignore. It was the son of Sarek.
It's his brother.
It's his brother, and it's its brother who, it's like, it's like having a family member you're deeply ashamed of, so you never talk about him, but now you're forced to face him. And even in the case of, like, where there's an opportunity for him to take Cybok out, he chooses not to because he's like, he's my brother. I can't kill him.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
despite Larry Luckenbill being a good actor, badly executed concept.
Yeah, I do want to see how Strange New Worlds is going to do, if they're going to do anything with him. That could be interesting.
Yeah. And I think it was funny they asked Sean Connery to play that role.
That's right.
That would have been interesting to see.
Oh, yeah, that would have been rough. Yeah. At least Cybok, at least just having Cybok show up as the surprise brother of Spock. At least we don't have to deal with Spock getting another surprise sibling ever again.
Yeah,
we will talk about that.
Keep saving the damn galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Michael. Okay.
So
Parasites. Let's talk about Parasites, the bad guy that wasn't.
Yeah, these are the bad guys from the episode Conspiracy. And the idea, of course, was, after the last outpost, they needed something else to try to create this long-running, bad guy that would return to antagonize the Federation, because you can only have Q show up so many times. The Ferengi were a laughable failure. The Klingons were your friends, so they needed to come up with something. So they came up with these aliens that effectively would enter a human host, or enter a host of some kind, and would take over them. Would effectively take control of them. And the funny thing is if you look at these aliens, very much the same design that Nero used in the first Kelvin timeline movie.
Yep.
We'll get there.
Yeah, and it's like, look, it's interesting. Like, I mean, it's an interesting concept, but again, it's badly executed. They really just made them laughable. And of course, I mean, I think the only really memorable part of that entire episode is right at the very end when they blast that guy with phasers, and I mean, they turn him into, they explode him like a blood sausage.
Yeah. And then after they've reduced him to a fine red mist, the alien queen's popping out of his torso, and they vaporize that bitch. And then there's a signal. Oh no, are they coming
Are they
back?
coming back?
And
Yeah,
we
and then
never hear
that's it.
from them again.
Yeah,
Ev-
never hear from him again. And that was the unfortunate part. It's like, okay, you set this up, you learn from your mistakes, they could come back, and
You
you
could
got
have
a
come up
little
with
bit of that, I think, with again the Dominion, where you've got shapeshifters who are able to take over people and what they look like. So it's that same concept of is this person on our side or not?
but
But
had they done
it
something
just
with the
went
parasite.
nowhere.
Yeah.
It just went nowhere.
Yeah, if they'd have brought them back like season 4, season 5, you have this threat that pops up is like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
But no, we got one and done. Body horror. Yay.
and that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. It was so bad.
Speaking of body horror, let's talk about Nero.
Eric Bana, good actor, solid actor, did the best he could with an absolutely terrible script written by, a 6-year-old.
We'll get to the
You know,
ugly soon.
he's this angry Romulan from a different timeline. He's mad because Mr. Spock was supposed to save their planet from a supernova and he didn't. So he's got a giant mining ship that's like, the Death Star.
It has
Uh,
like a gazillion. It has like a
is
gazillion missiles on it. So, oh,
yeah,
there's a ship. I have a mining ship. Here's all of my missiles.
yeah.
5 billion missiles.
And now, I have heard that behind the scenes or whatever they say it's actually the ship has like Borg tech on it, and I'm like, you know what? If you didn't say it in the movie, it doesn't count.
Yeah,
But
they did
he's
actually.
just
So
go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, go ahead and finish your thought. I jumped in there on you.
That's okay. But he just didn't work. Like I remember watching the movie, and when he first introduces himself, you look back at some of these other characters we talk about their introductions, right? You knew what they were about. He's like, "Hello, Christopher. I'm Nero." I'm like, "You have to be bullshitting me. If this was the only take that you had."
Yeah.
It just went downhill from there. He was such a silly bad guy.
So, a couple of things. I know. I mean, the 2 or 3 people who are still listening to us right now. The canon wise, they did establish before the movie came out. There was a comic book series where they talked about how the star went supernova, how Geordi, who had become a captain at that point, had designed the Geordi and actually the revived Data. They had been able to revive Data's memory in through B4 officially. They designed this ship that was supposed to inject the red matter, which was supposed to stop the supernova and all that stuff from happening. And he designed the jellyfish ship that they show in the movie. And Spock basically decides to go and on his own, he kind of rogue ones it and takes off on his own to go try to save Romulus, because effectively the Federation Council said, you know what, not our problem.
Let
Um,
them die.
yeah, like basically, like the saviors of the galaxy, or the protectors of peace in the galaxy are like, like they pulled a full on Ivan Drago. If they die, they die.
They die.
You
They
know?
die.
It's like, dude, all right, whatever. So Spock's like, I made a promise. I'm out skis, and he goes and tries to do it. So what happens? Of course, Romulus is destroyed. Nero's ship is a regular, unarmed mining ship. They get word that Romulus has exploded. They find out that the Federation or Spock promised to get the Federation to intervene, and he didn't do it. So he's all angry. They end up going and getting the ship retrofitted with a bunch of weapons to get revenge. The thing is, I understand it. Like up to that point, I understand the anger, the sorrow because he lost his family. I mean, the guy is absolutely inconsolable. He's so angry. But when he goes back, when they figure out what happens, like when he gets sucked into the black hole and gets basically thrown into another universe and another time, while I could understand them initially still wanting to find Spock and get revenge for their homeworld, once they realized where they were and what happened, at that point, it would have been like, for me, it would have been like, well, that sucks, but you know what? Let's go home.
And
Let's
save everybody.
hey,
We
let's
can do
yeah,
this.
let's go do this. Like we've got proof that this is gonna happen. Let's go show them.
We got a century.
Yeah, like come on, man,
Plus.
we got this. Let's do this. And instead, he continues to on this hell-bent mission of revenge, not only against Spock, but against his entire race.
And then
And
Earth, because
Oh,
why not?
and the Federation. Yeah, he's going to blow
Yeah.
up Earth too.
Because we got to blow up Earth, so Kirk has a reason to save it.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
the other thing is, I mean, this is more commentary about the movie, so I'll make it very brief. There is actually there's a deleted scene from that movie
Mhm.
that so well explains what happened to the Narada after the Kel was it the
The
Kel
Kelvin crashed into it.
crashed into it. It disabled the ship, and they say right there at the beginning that they're on the edge of Klingon space. The Narada is disabled. They get captured by the Klingons, and Nero and Niall and a lot of the crew that survived were taken to Rurapente, and they were
Mhm.
there for like 20 years.
Yeah, like 15 or 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And it explains that scene shows how the creature bit the tip of his ear off. Because if you look at him later on, the tip of his ear is missing, and there's bite marks in his head. You know, it was actually a really good way to explain what happened in that gap.
Guess there wasn't enough lens flare in the scene.
No, plus, I mean, be honest, it didn't. It also kind of hurt the story in some ways. It's like, okay, you're in jail for 15 years, you say, and then you know when to get out, you know how to get out, and your super ship is just sitting there waiting for you to take it back. It hasn't been taken back to Kronos and
Yeah,
dismantled and re-engineered. Oh, they just left it.
yeah.
you know,
Yeah. It really doesn't matter. He sucked. We know.
he did.
Right. Now, speaking of it sucked, we know it. Our next one on the list, played by another wonderful actor by
Fantastic actor.
yeah, Idris Elba, wonderful actor. Much love for his acting. But he played the character of Captain Balthazar Edison slash Carl in Star Trek Tokyo Drift. I mean, Star Trek Beyond.
Yeah.
My favorite of the three Kelvin time. I'm sorry, correction, 2 movies in the Kelvin timeline.
Yeah, but that's not saying
Because
much.
there's only 2. But yeah, I enjoyed this movie overall, strangely enough. But so lay into why he sucks.
Well, okay. So basically, you know, what they did is they blendered another Star Trek story and kind of and then kind of basically tacked on this whole thing. But he was the captain of the USS Franklin. They get lost. They make a point of saying that he was a Mako, and it was like, then how is he a captain of a starship? Different, you know, whatever. Okay, fine. Then he figures out there's some things that, you know, there's this stuff that basically healed him, but it turned him into this alien. You know, basically rewrote his DNA, and he became this revenge filled alien. And it's like, again, you know, you are stripping the humanity out of this character. Now, I know they did that kind of, they're like, well, they turned into this alien, but it was before, like, come on. I just felt like they made him so one-dimensional. Like, there was no depth to this character. He was so bad, so mean, that you're just like, I'm not buying it.
Yeah. And the thing is, you know, Idris Elba is one of those actors that I would sit and listen to him read the phone book. You know, he's that good. If you've never seen it on YouTube, there's videos of him talking to little kindergarten kids about Valentine's Day. And it's so good. You know, he's just so great. They could have had anybody in this role. He got so little to do. And it was such a waste of one of the best actors alive today, and it's such a waste of his talent. It was almost insulting. I was like, you got this guy, and you gave him nothing to do. His character has to your point, he has no depth. It's like,
Yeah.
ugh.
He has a monologue at some point, which is delivered well, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's mostly about, oh, gee, the Enterprise got blown up, and yay, they techno-babble their way to sabotage. I like that part.
Isn't
But
that
yeah,
isn't
it's
classical music?
I hate
Yeah.
you. I
Yeah.
hate you so much.
All
Speaking of
right.
characters we grow to hate,
Yeah.
So speaking of growing to hate a character, okay, the last one on our absolute bad list, we've got other honorable mentions.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll go ahead and just list them off here from your list, Patrick. Section
Here.
31 as a concept, except for Control. Control was interesting, but yeah,
Enough to make a good bad guy for season 2 of Discovery.
right. The Soongs, Arik, Soong, and I can't remember the one.
There's a bunch of them that
There's a
aren't
whole
that aren't
bunch of 'em.
Noonian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Noonien
And
Soong,
they're all played by Brent Spiner. Everything Soong is Brent Spiner.
Yeah. And they're all basically the same.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and one of them apparently had something to do with Khan. Of
Mhm.
course.
Yeah.
And we on our list here,
Duras sisters as bad guys, not as characters. We love the Duras sisters, but when they're being the bad guy, they're just
And
they're comical because they're
Yeah.
like yeah,
Packwoods.
they're like the wet bandits of Star Trek, you know, like they are. I mean, literally, they could have been taken out by Kevin McAllister.
Yeah.
And but the thing is that when you look at them as actual characters on their own, not as a fighting force, they are brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, we love them. They suck as enemies.
And then
do.
lastly,
Also, Starfleet admirals.
yeah, I'll say last on our honorable mention list for the bad, all the Starfleet admirals, including Admiral RoboCop. You know,
And-
Even
Yeah.
though he's in a movie that doesn't exist, and apparently he's part of Section 31. Surprise, surprise.
Mhm.
guys, surprise. So
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, Star Trek had, especially TNG, really kind of established this
Shitty
pattern
admirals.
of if you had an admiral come on, they were going to be bad. You
Yep.
know, and it just got to where it was predictable. Oh, there's a new admiral character we've never heard of before. That's a bad guy.
Yeah.
You know,
how's he
So
going to
let's
scream over?
yeah,
So-
let's talk about the Borg Queen.
Yeah, the last on our list for today of the bad guys, the bad guys, is the Borg Queen character. This is
Mhm.
not a commentary about the actresses, whether it be Alice Krieg, Annie Wershing, or and her name is just escaping me at the moment. The one who became the Borg Queen, who played Girardi.
So we got Borgatti.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I could take this first. First of all, the Borg as a bad guy was always good. They were this faceless collective of destruction. When the Borg Queen was introduced in First Contact, she gave the Borg a voice, and and she was still good there, no question. We enjoyed that for that movie. She worked, and then she became a regular in Voyager, and came back for Picard twice, 3 times.
Yeah.
It just keeps coming back. Ugh.
Yeah.
I really feel
The-
I really feel like once they killed the character in First Contact, that should have been it, because it just didn't make any sense. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. You can have multiple iterations of a character if it makes sense. But why? Why would it make sense? I mean, are you trying to imply to us that the Borg collective is like a beehive, that each hive or each collective has its own queen? No.
apparently, to me, the whole concept of the character is problematic in that what made the Borg so effective is that they are a collective. There are no ranks. Everybody is the same. They have no personalities. They have no uniqueness to them at all. It's just, we're the Borg. We're going to assimilate you, take your strengths and make them our own. There's no individuals. And then they throw this character in who is like, has a personality. Like,
Right.
no, you did this once already and you did it better when it was Locutus, where he still behaved like a Borg. He didn't have personality. He still behaved like a Borg, but he would talk. more than they would. That
Nice.
worked out well. The Borg Queen character to me was just, I mean, for me personally, I was like, this just does not work for this bad guy group. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. One off, she worked. Beyond that, it was just okay. Yeah, so much for the collective.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. I mean, the movie was great. Don't get me wrong. First
Yeah.
Contact's a great movie, but yeah.
And in the movie, like I said, the Borg Queen works there because she allows Data to explore his humanity in a weird way and gives Picard a person to fight.
Yeah. Action figure Picard. He's
Which
always
you
Picard in the movies is very different from Picard in the show.
which you kind of need because it's a movie
Sure.
and you're serving a different purpose.
Absolutely. So that being said, that's our list of the bad from the bad guys. We do have one list left for you, and it's only two. I promise you this will go quickly. This is the ugly, and there is only a reason why there's only 200 because these are special stupids. And
These are we wish they didn't exist anywhere in Star Trek at all.
It should be called the good, bad, the
Yeah.
offensive.
yeah, absolutely. So you
Yeah.
can see here, again, not a commentary on the actor's ability.
Commentary on the director's ability, however.
Right.
Mm,
So Benedict Cumberbatch, again, wonderful actor. Love
yes.
there's nothing that I have seen him put his back into that I didn't like.
He did the best he could with what he had here.
Yeah, in my head
When he
canon,
played
he did this for a paycheck.
John Harrison. There's so many air quotes there, it actually hurts.
Yeah, there's the only reason why they did that is because they knew that him playing the character of Khan Noonien Singh
He didn't. He didn't play it. This movie doesn't exist.
Was the worst kept secret in Star Trek. Like as soon as it was announced that there was going to be a foil or an antagonist for this movie, everybody is immediately like, "Oh yeah, we know who he's going to be. Come on, we know." Again, worst kept secret in Star Trek. So they intentionally set out.
Lied. They straight up lied. J.J. Abrams straight up lied and said, no, it's not Khan.
Yeah.
Because J.J. loves mystery boxes. That's J.J.
He also lied that he was making Star Trek movies.
Yeah. Well,
that's true.
Yeah, which is why we're going to pretty much talk about him because he's the responsible for that character that doesn't exist and that movie doesn't exist, and that one silly one where we get an idiot Romulan who sucks, and the most ridiculous way to get Kirk in the chair. And thankfully, and the best of the Kelvin timeline is the movie he doesn't direct. And that,
yeah,
please let him not come back for Star Trek, for the fourth Star Trek movie where he throws whales in a blender.
Oh,
yeah.
So somehow it tells me something tells me if there is a fourth Star Trek movie and he does direct it, it's going to end up being that the whales are like the ones trying to destroy Earth. It's just like he's going to turn it on its ear. I mean, look, to be honest with you, there's only one director that I accept the twists from, and that is M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong.
And in only one movie.
That's right. Because and one episode of Robot Chicken. What a twist. But the I just know that if he gets his hands on the franchise's ample nacelles again, that it's just going to be another forgettable experience.
Well, he murdered Star Wars too, so
yeah,
he's beyond redemption at this point.
That's right. He'll probably make a new Star Trek movie and it'll be somehow Khan returned.
Yeah. He's probably like he's gonna get thrown out and you're just gonna have this scene where you're just seeing
double face palm for that one.
See him walk out of the Paramount offices going, fine, I'll make my own Star Trek movie with hookers and blackjack.
That'd be better than what we got, to be fair.
To be fair, yeah. All right. Well, that is our list of notable Star Trek villains. What did you think? Did we get it right? Or did we miss anyone along the way?
We missed somebody. We know that.
Oh, yeah.
Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for joining us here on Treknicity. where we do the deep dive on all things in the Star Trek multiverse. I'm your host, Lars DeSenza, and with me are my co-hosts, Patrick Murray and Mike Raper. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Treknicity.com, as well as visiting all of our socials listed here. Or find us on your favorite podcast service, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio, as well as Amazon Music. If you have any ideas for future episode subjects, please feel free to drop a comment on this video or DM us on any of our social media accounts. And as always, rock out, which is Spock out. We'll see you next time.
I'm the omnipotent God that you won't forget your favorite letter of the whole alphabet. I'll put you to the test and show you all now to guide you.
Hit the button.
I don't have it ready.
Oh, that's a problem.
Be sure to drink your
Ovaltine. Son of a bitch. A crummy commercial.
Couldn't help it. In this episode, we're going to break down the villains of the franchise that we felt are worthy. Sorry, I'm going to cut that. In this episode, we're going to break down the villains of the franchise that we felt are worth mentioning. Why did I not read this beforehand?
Because you're terrible at this.
In this episode, we're going to break down the villains of the franchise that we felt are worth mentioning. We'll break down the list of the bad. What?
This is terrible.
Wait a minute. The bad guys and gals from. Okay, who wrote this?